All right, Cabel, thank you so much for joining me today. I have been a long time follower of your work. Well, for the last 2 years at least. I think you've been doing it a little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
Can you tell maybe more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So, geez, where do I start? I mean, it's 25 or 26 years now that I've been in fitness. For a long time, like everyone, I was a struggling personal trainer and really trying hard to make ends meet. Finally embraced the idea of having a coach or mentor myself that kind of gave me some new ideas and direction and opened my first facility. We did $23,000 in training our first month, and actually sold over $1 million in training programs in our first rolling 12 months. And the rest was kind of history. From there, we're really growing. And as we started to hire people and grow, realized how hard it was to duplicate, and which led me to the next passion, which was helping other fitness entrepreneurs overcome the same obstacles that I did. So now coaching for the last 6-7 years, probably had a few hundred clients worldwide. Presently about 85, 90 clients on 4 continents, and seeing people go from as little as $200 a month in revenue to 5, 6, and even 7-figure businesses. So it's a lot of fun we have helping people.
Yeah, so I mean that's some pretty incredible results right out of the gate. And you're known as the systems guy, so I would imagine you've kind of captured your system for how you did it, and you try to apply it for these other up and coming entrepreneurs, or how do you go about how do you share your information the best with these people?
Yeah. So the irony is that I'm not a good systems guy by nature, and I guess that's why you become one, right? Because when you're really lousy at something, and you realize that it needs to become a focal point, and you just grind away until you become good at it. So now, really, like as far as it's much like training people. I mean, I recognize that trainers are just like our fitness clients. They need to first increase their confidence, or overcome their own fear of I'm not good enough to do this, and then understanding the emotional connection of why it is that it's so important that they do this and they're deserving, before really giving them the solution or the package. And from there, it really is just the same as everybody else. I mean, I got a few key tools and materials that I like to share with people, but really the first part is like people just need to be confident enough to accept that. Man, I would have hated that advice 10 years ago, but it's true.
Yeah, I've really found that confidence is really it's a transfer of enthusiasm, and it's really the key to sales. I mean, you have to get enthusiastic about your product and what you can do. You have
Yes.
the first sale you need to make is of yourself. Like,
Yes.
am I worthy of this thing that I'm trying to convince this person of doing?
Exactly. I
Um,
agree.
what How do you structure your days, since now it's made a focal point for being an assistance guy?
Yeah, and my whole life got shook upside down just 3 months ago with the arrival of our son. So any plan I had then has really went out the window. But I mean, just a short time with him has taught me to be even more regimented with how I structure my time, and being able to work on demand, and knowing that sometimes you can't always follow your plan. You just got to pick it up when you can. But as a typical rule of thumb, like I'm not somebody that does well shifting from task to task. So I really have to batch process. So for example, we're doing this call today on a Wednesday because Wednesdays and Thursdays are my consulting call days. And typically for a block of 4 or 5 hours, that's when I do all my client calls. Tuesdays, for example, I don't book any appointments. My wife knows, don't book any appointments for us personally that day either, because that's my project day. I need to lock myself in the office and have minimal distraction and just grind out my list. But beyond that, I think there's some really key things that have allowed me to continue to be productive. You have to remember that the only difference between where you are today and reaching that upper 1% or that next level of success is just completing one more task. So each morning, or rather the last thing I do in each workday, is I choose the 3 things that I'm going to try to accomplish tomorrow. The reason that's important is that it doesn't matter who you are. Every day is chaotic. We all get pulled in 1,000 directions, and you can't avoid that. So these 3 things for me are, what I try to focus on in the gaps in between dealing with the craziness of what goes on each day. And if I can accomplish or cross off one of those things at the end of the day, or make significant or progress, that's a reason to celebrate and congratulate yourself. You have to choose those tasks at the end of the day, because I fully believe your subconscious mind goes to work overnight and helps you draft those solutions before you even start to expend creative energy on it. First thing in the morning for me, it's really important. I keep a gratitude journal and write each morning what I'm thankful for, what I'm excited about. And that has had the biggest difference in my life in terms of getting my mind in the right place each morning to be able to focus more on demand when I'm able to. So those are my key tasks. Set my list the night before, always write in my gratitude journal, celebrate my success at the end of each day for accomplishing one of those things, and just try to make sure I cross at least one off each day.
We have very similar ways we structure our days. And I mean, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. So I'm curious, who was your biggest influence, and how'd you who taught you to do this kind of stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had a lot of great mentors over the years. I mean, there's no big secret that Bedros Keuilian has been my mentor friend for a long time. He was the guy that probably first gave me that big paradigm shift in terms of how I do a lot of that stuff. But guys like John Maxwell, of course, have had a huge influence with his books. And then most recently, I've done some private coaching with Dan Sullivan. And my whole coaching experience could have been summarized to the one moment at Dan's house during a cocktail party that I finally understood the role of confidence in all of our lives, not only my life, but even those that I interact with, my employees, most of all, So really, those probably be the three biggest ones.
Yeah, I'm a huge Dan Sullivan fan, and that's where I've learned how to guard my confidence. I learned that from him. So what's the most common thing people ask you, and what do you think they should be asking instead?
Yeah, so totally funny. I was just thinking about this morning, and I had the perfect answer, and I lost my train of thought here for a second. But yeah, the bottom, you know what, the number one thing is that people always ask me, because I have the reputation as the systems guy, how do I bring more systems into my business? How do I get better control? But the number one question that they should be asking is my monthly lead volume adequate to support my business? Maybe that sounds complicated, but let me break it down real simple for you. If the front end of your business isn't jam-packed full, it doesn't matter what systems and operations and customer service is like, because you're going to be starving and on the brink of extinction if you can't get enough coming in the front door to iron out the kinks as you grow, basically.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer that marketing is the oxygen that your business needs to breathe. And to just the 10x school of thought of combining massive amounts of action on the front end to really try to break your funnel to see where the rest of the leagues are.
And probably like 9 out of 10 new clients I meet are already doing a lot of the right things, but fear has stopped them from pulling the trigger of spending more money on Facebook, for example, right? And it's like what they're doing is actually working, but still they hold themselves back because they don't know how to measure. Right? And they don't know how to validate that if I just spend more money, I would grow faster.
Right. The time to stop going back to the well is when the well is empty, not because you're scared of sticking it down there again. Right.
Yeah.
So who is your typical customer client, and how do you attract? I mean, I guess is different for your coaching business than it is for your actual like fitness business.
Yeah. So they're distinctly different with some similar characteristics. So why don't we talk about both real quick? In our fitness studios, I think like most people, our primary audience is females, typically late 20s to mid 40s. Really the Susie homemaker or a new mom that has been trying to chase the baby away for many years. At the end of the day, though, like our fitness clients are people that they don't feel confident about themselves. They are having a hard time to love themselves for who they are anymore. And the reason they can't lose weight or get in shape is exactly that. They can't accept who they are or where they at, or that life can still be great regardless, which actually allows them to not feel punished or restricted when they commit to change. On the consulting side, it's much the same thing. Struggling personal trainers. On the flip side, it's more men than women, mostly men, but struggling personal trainers, it's same thing again. Brilliant minds, but don't have the confidence to overcome their fear of, if I just commit to learning these few things, that I can help more people. It's not about another certification. It's about learning a new skill set that typically scares them, which is sales, marketing, and finance.
Yeah, I studied Joe Polish, and there's something that he said that trying to find a new business when your business you haven't fixed your business is it's a fool's errand. And
Yeah.
that instead of he teaches carpet cleaners and now Genius Networking and whatnot, but it's not about trying to find another business model. It's about getting better at actually developing your business acumen.
Yeah.
It was really humbling for me because I kind of jumped from business venture to business venture, and I have not, I was afraid to commit and get really good at the marketing piece. And I thought doing all kinds of different things to avoid it was going to be my answer. And it really, business is business. It doesn't really matter what business you're in. So it was really interesting.
It's totally true.
So what drew me to you is that you are very stoic. And that's something that I really, sales is more about amping up the energy and getting them, to just get them to take action, to move, and then you can kind of direct them where you want them to go. But you're really stoic, and I think that leads to your systems. How do you balance that, and how did you come up with that, this way of being? I mean, it's attractive to me, but I mean, it's obviously working for you.
Yeah. It's funny because I think you're the first person that's ever identified that or said that. And since you wrote that in the email to me a few days ago as we kind of prepared for today, I really started to think about that, and I'm like, I never really thought of it that way before. The truth is, I think that's my nature to be that way. Like, I'm not a highly expressive guy. I'm not the kind of person that wants to be the center of attention in a group. At one point, my self-esteem and self-confidence was at a point where I thought I wanted to be, like the bodybuilding world. I mean, I was a national level amateur bodybuilder, and it was all about the feeling that I got when I was in front of that audience, because what I was really trying to do was feed my own confidence and self-esteem. So I think that stoic nature is truly my true nature and kind of what I've always grown up to be. But I realized that in trying to overcome my own insecurities, that I needed to adapt more of that presence. I needed to, the reality is that most of us, when we're afraid of something, we spend a lot of time in denial. We don't want to admit it, right? And the world is full of this, in that it's so much easier for us to blame somebody else to validate why we're not doing what we know we should be doing, or what would actually make a difference in our life. So I think when you finally are able to accept that, you realize that, like, some of the best therapy for what you're trying to overcome is to be able to admit and identify and just get those things out in the open and talk to them with others. And like, the holy shit moment is that, like, people really respect it when you say the things that they're actually thinking, right? And it's hard for us to realize at first, because we're so wrapped up in our own fear, to admit that other people probably think and feel the way that we do. So I guess I kind of discovered that, and then sort of latched on to that. And the reality is that what Mrs. Jones wants is, Mrs. Jones just wants somebody that can understand her and can relate to her. And the reality is we all can, but somehow it's hard for us to grasp. So I guess it was just that realization. And now for me, it's become a real passion for me to share that message, that we're all kind of broken inside. So accept that and get past that, and recognize, and I think every good trainer should be able to identify with this, is that the physiology behind us is that we know how dopamine and everything works, right? So we have to kind of validate those own thoughts in our own mind, in that positive affirmation and all of those things. It works for all of us. So I guess I just started to focus on that. I had that realization, and it's like, this helps me. I know it can help other people. So regardless of whether it makes me uncomfortable, I'm just going to embrace that and try to connect with people that way.
So you mentioned that you were a national level bodybuilder. So you strapped on the mankini and
right.
Got some good pictures. Do you think that helped you with your fitness business, or if you had to do it all over again, would you do it exactly the same way, or would you do something differently?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a loaded question. Like with today, the reality is no, I wouldn't do it differently. But if I had the knowledge that I have today, I would do it faster, which is illustrated every day with my clients. I mean, they accomplish in months and years what took me decades, basically. Like it's mind blowing how fast they go with the knowledge that we've accumulated. But no, I mean, every single experience I've had from bodybuilding to the business's success and failures, more importantly the failures, has kind of shaped the principles and philosophy I have today, which I believe so strongly in.
So what do you think that your clients, their number one stumbling block still is? I mean, you are able to attract them, you can speak really exactly to them, so what are they most commonly struggling with?
Yeah, so fitness clients, it's always the same thing. And it really is more of what we've been talking about. Like fitness clients, it's not a better diet program. It really is. It's getting out of their own head and getting out of their own way. Like you have to teach your fitness clients to love themselves. And we do that through a sense of community. Everything in our fitness centers is about getting our clients involved with one another outside of the workout. Right. This is why like Facebook private groups, like if you're running a service-based business, in my opinion, without a Facebook private group, you don't realize what you're doing yet. You're completely missing the boat, because everything is about that law of connection, connecting people, because it's like, you talk about my I equals EAS equation. And I really think it is that simple. Like life isn't a solo sport. If you don't have other people to constantly affirm you, it's only a matter of time before your fear is going to beat you, right? And the only difference between you, me, and guys like Richard Branson, who I greatly admire, are that they beat their fear more often than you and I do. That's it.
Yeah. And so what's something that you used to do, that you used to believe used to work, and that you do differently now? Obviously the connecting piece, and probably not dwelling in your fear and misery and reaching out, I would imagine, is a big piece of that. But what's something that you've started to do differently?
What do you mean? I'm not sure I understand the question.
So what's something that, in the 90s, it was all about low fat diets. Now it's all about, I still do intermittent fasting, but I'm not sure if that's going to work 2 years from now. It's always something that I guess, what's something that you thought was, that you maybe had some dogma around, that you found that was absolutely bogus and you do differently?
I'm such a product of consistency. Like I guess I'm like everyone else in that I hate change. I'm very rigid. I realize that I'm very rigid to change unless I can validate that something is really deeply flawed and not working.
Well, you've obviously reached a high level of success. So maybe you just were able to find the right, I mean, you hit with the bodybuilding stuff. I struggled I wrote a book on body weight strength exercises after I got so sick of failing at every fitness, right? Like I spent so much money on ebooks and floundering around buying all the magazines. I was so close to like doing rounds of steroids. I was so close to doing it. Before I just said, screw it, I'm good enough the way I am, and just let me get really strong with my body weight. And I wrote a book about it. So maybe you didn't you didn't get suckered into all the different hype, and maybe you're just not as impressionable as I was.
Well, you know what? Actually, when you put it that way, I guess really I was, because I mean, I grew up just like you in that respect. I mean, I tried every new supplement that came out. I mean, I'm just old enough to kind of know what cybergenics was, and the crazy ads and stuff that they used to have. So, really within my bodybuilding life, I guess that's it. And it is actually what shaped everything else. Because bodybuilding for me became the epitome of that regimentation, and it came crashing down around me. Like I was a national level athlete, but I'm 5'4", so you can only get so big. And, I was getting sucked into the world that represents, and all the crazy things that surround it. And the wake up call for me is, when I was back and taking testosterone and all those things, the wake up call for me that I'll never forget was sitting with my doctor and him explaining that my cholesterol levels were through the roof. And I was like 23 years old, and I knew why that was. I knew what was happening in my body. But for whatever reason, that was the wake up call for me that said, like, I started this to look and feel better and be healthier. And like, what am I really doing? And really, I guess that probably was the turning point that actually built my whole career, because I realized then that it's one thing to work out and exercise and eat in a certain way, whether it's keto or intermittent fasting or low carbs or high fat or whatever. But the reality is like all of those things are kind of gimmicks in a sense, in that they inspire you for the moment to make a commitment. But in essence, if you feel that you're being restricted or punished, that it's not going to be sustainable. So I guess if there's anything, that's it, is that I realized that our industry is built on these unsustainable practices. So everything business-wise came from me teaching people the law of what I call the law of consistency, in that if you take similar action on a repeat basis, it's much easier to make subtle changes that lead to not only big changes or big improvements, but lasting improvements. Yeah. Right. And I guess I approach business now the same way, just be consistent in what you're doing and let's fine tune it.
Yeah. You really took me like where I wanted to go and deeper. So thank you for that. And yeah. So has any one client or situation surprised you in the way it resulted? Like someone you thought maybe they weren't getting it, and this is really not, I don't know, like you're maybe so close to giving up on them, and all of a sudden it clicked for them.
Yeah, like probably dozens of times now in the last 25 years. But I mean, I have amazing stories, like one of my I have two, like towards the tail end of my training career, when I stepped off the training floor, like the people, like I had many situations where people were off medications and avoided surgery. But I have this one situation that always is very dear to me, about a woman that was scheduled for bilateral hip replacement, and she was a speech therapist for children. So she was a taller woman and spent all day in tiny desks, and literally having those hip replacements would have ended her career. And the fact that when everybody else told her it was impossible, we were able to avoid that surgery for, it's going on 5 years, and she has no hint of doing that surgery anytime in the future. Those situations, to the coaching side of things, when I do initial calls with people, like I just had one this morning that actually wasn't like this, but on those new calls, when you meet a client for the first time, I think we all have that perception in our mind is it going to work? Is this person going to be a good fit? And sometimes you just meet people that you think there's that personality conflict, right? Because the coaching situation is all about trust. It doesn't matter what I know. If you don't feel comfortable with me, if you don't trust me, it isn't going to work. And I've had several situations where I'm like, this person will quit in 30 or 60 days, only to have them surprise me and be some of our biggest successes. Like it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And putting those people, celebrating their victories is the same way, those private groups are huge for that, both with the fitness clients. It's so clear when you have that before and after. And that was a big, studying marketing, watching Beachbody switch from like the P90X isn't about how ripped whatever his name is. It doesn't matter. It's about showing all the transformations of the people. And Bill Phillips with his Body for Life, that was the big thing, was all the transformations on the outside of the outside cover. I remember that. So having a place for those people to come and talk to and brag about their victories because no one else really cares. Exactly. Like outside of our little group, no one, like everyone else, we're all just like kind of lost and operating on our own, and having a place to come and that third place of being awesome with you is attached. It's like, that's really where the real value, I feel, is.
To illustrate that point and to give people some immediate takeaway value if they're watching this today, every single new coaching client I get, my own staff, we constantly talk about this. Like, one of the most important activities that we can complete in a day is like posting and acknowledging our clients on our public fan pages and in our private coaching groups. So literally, whether it's pictures of the workouts, group photos after workout, that casual interaction that says, I'm proud of you, will change your business in terms of what you're doing from a marketing and lead generation standpoint, because the world these days is driven on the fact that it feels good to be congratulated. And we love to congratulate others because secretly and selfishly, we hope somebody will congratulate us. So I think that's the best illustration of that point, and how you can take that and immediately put it to work to monetize in your business.
Yeah. So what's next for you in business? I mean, you've reached a level of success where, what's next, and when is it going to be enough?
Yeah, my wife asks me this every single day, I think. I think as every entrepreneur, if you've studied the GAP principle, I know you're a Dan Sullivan fan, so you probably know all about the GAP and his thoughts on the GAP. I've spent my life very much of one of those people that looks at the horizon, and that's where I disappoint myself, because the horizon keeps moving. But I don't know that there really ever is enough. Like, I live to serve. I want to impact more people. I want to help more people. So I'm really focused on opening new locations right now, for the simple reason that I think we can help and service a lot more people. And I love my team. I love my team family, and I want to create new opportunities for them with tools that I didn't have when I was in the early stages of my career. So really, that's what's on the horizon for me. I have 2 more territories that are set to open in the next 18 months. I'd like to get to the point where I'm opening a new location every 90 days, which I think I can accomplish in the next couple of years. The flip side of that is I absolutely intend to do more coaching, for no other reason other than that I love it. So I've been really lazy and slow to get some products up and out, but I'm actually starting to roll out a product here and there. And truly, I just want to help more trainers, help more people. So that's it, man. I'm going to spend every day, all day doing that.
So my final question for you, I've been trying to, I really appreciate your candor with all this, and really going deep with me. So what do you want your legacy to be? I mean, beyond just being a good I mean, Bedros, since we're both Bedros' camp, he's very clear with his Fit Body Bootcamp. He wants to be everywhere with that. But what's your legacy? What do you want to leave beyond? Is it Red Deer? Is it being is it something different? I just wanted to know, as personal as you can get with me.
Yeah, man. Honestly, like, I'm going to disappoint you, because I've really been honored to be an influencer with the Fit Body Network. As the former COO and still a colleague of Bedros, what we do at the 7-Figure Mastermind. I really love the fact that I kind of fly under the radar. That I'm not out there prominently. So at one point, I really wanted to be the legend. I wanted people to know who I was. But the truth of the matter is, these days I don't. All I want my legacy to be is one that I know, one that of the people that I've touched, the difference I've made. All I want to be able to do is sit on a beach somewhere at the end of my life and look back and go, I helped every single person I could. I don't know how I could have helped more people. That's all I want my legacy to be. I think we live in a world these days that we just need more of that. We just need more people to want to pay it forward and to actually want to promote and encourage each other. So I don't really have any need anymore for people to know that it was me that did that. I guess internally, like, I was preparing to kind of think about retirement even the next 5 to 7 years. And then my son arrived. So now I have the thought that I should have a legacy that he can take over if he chooses to. So we're going to, like I said, our focus is to keep growing new locations, and really that will be up to him if that's the legacy or not. But I'm just going to help as many people as I can, man. That's the honest to God truth.
Yeah. And that circles back to your stoic personality, is that the question is, are you a person of value? Are you a person what's worth knowing, rather than being well known? And honestly, I tell my clients all the time, it's a lot easier to get rich than it is to get famous.
Yeah.
And I think you're achieving excellence in what you're pursuing, because it's about the other people and having an impact deeply with a fewer number of people than having to be in front of the stage. Because when you do get on stage, you're so human in your approach, like, and the fact that you're able to take me where I wanted to go on this call, and you made time for me, because I'm nobody. I just wanted to be a positive blip on your radar. So I really appreciate how human you have been, and I just wanted to acknowledge you. And I think that you're going to be able to work for a long time with that kind of attitude.
Yeah, man, no problem. The feeling's mutual. Nobody's nobody. So, like, cross that out of your vocabulary. I'm just going to point that out and put you on the spot for that.
All right.
We should never say that. And heck, if I ever say that, make sure and come up and slap me on the back and say, never say that. Because yeah, that's it, man. It's like, you know, you and me, every single person out there that it takes the time to watch this. Thank you. And truly just, you know, celebrate yourself each day. And man, don't spend a day ever doing something that you don't like doing. I mean, we all have bad days, but don't ever spend a day doing something you don't like doing, because there's just, I don't know, there's just no value in that, I don't think.
Well, I think it's an excellent parting piece of guidance, and I want to be respectful of your time. But if there's anything, how do people reach out to you, and what's the best way for someone to get more information from you? Because I've got marketers and business owners on my list, and I want them to be able to reach out to get more from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, my website, cabelmcElderry.com. Lots of great information there, a couple of free tools and stuff if people like. I'm not your typical internet marketer. I mean, sometimes I'm delivering a ton of content. Sometimes I put it on the hiatus for a while and focus on my internal teams. Facebook, facebook.com/CabelMcElderry, or my personal profile, either one. My name, it's pretty easy to find me. Just type me into Google. If I can help you, I mean, the big message to me is that obviously I have to juggle a lot of different things, but I really do try to be reciprocal for anybody that reaches out to me, because I love being part of this. So yeah, if I can help you, if you found value in what I've seen or say, you know, visit my stuff, you know, get on my list, and you know, I'd love to help you out further if I can.